Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be doing like a little story time, I guess. It's going to be about why I quit my job at McDonald's, what it was like. This is from a couple years ago, but I actually went through a lot working there, and you guys seem to like to hear about my experiences, so I'm just going to be talking about that. If you want to know what I went through working at McDonald's, like the truth behind everything, then just keep on watching. Okay, so first things first, I applied. McDonald's was my first job. I was hired when I was 16 years old. I was going through some rough stuff. I just graduated high school, and I was like, okay, I was just applying for every job possible, you know? And this was about 2 months prior before I was supposed to start college. I graduated high school a year early, so that's why I was 16. I was about to turn 17. They had me come in the week that I was starting college, so that's how long it took them to call me, to put me on the schedule. That just goes to show you that's how unorganized they are. I just know that they called to me when I was in my first class in college, and they said hey, you're supposed to be here and this and that, and nobody called me to tell me that I was on the schedule. They called me and said I was supposed to be there, and I was like, hey, I'm on my first day of college, I can't come in. And they're like, oh well, do you really want this job? You need to be here for training and this and that. And I told them straight up, if you guys are gonna make me pick between school and working here, then you can just fire me. I'll quit. I don't need this job. And they're like, oh okay, and they were all mad, right? Anyways, I didn't get any real training. The only real training that I had from them was learning how to mop the kitchen, the lobby, and the bathrooms. So I was that's the only thing they trained me on, which set me up for failure for future stuff. I didn't know how to do a lot of things, and they were really frustrated with me. Everyone there had really bad attitude. It was such a negative environment to be in. At first I didn't mind it, but after a while, working there, once you're actually there all the time, it was just really bad. They had me working 6 days a week. I was working a lot of hours. They had me working to midnight. Sometimes they would only schedule me 3 hours, so that's how the 6 days came into place. So it was really bad, and it turns out, because I was underage, I was still a minor, they weren't even supposed to be scheduling me the way that they were. They actually got in trouble for it a year after I had been working there. They got in trouble, they found, corporate found out that I was a minor, even though it's on my paperwork, but they found out that I had been working against the hours that I'm legally able to work. So it was a whole thing. Another thing that I want to mention is it was a lot of harassment working there. When I was working there, there was this girl, or she was I don't know what to call her. She was a woman, right? She's this mom. She was a manager. She's 25 years old or something. She was 7 years older than me or something. She was always really mean to me, for no reason, just literally no reason. She was just always being really mean to me and hating on me. I literally avoided working her shifts that she was in charge of. I changed my schedule because after a year of working there, I mostly always worked with her, and she was just so cruel to me, and she didn't do anything, but she was always yelling at me, making me feel bad. And after a while, she wouldn't even let me, when I was on her schedule, when I worked for her, she always had me in the back drive-through. She never had me up front because she literally didn't like me, and so I always had to be in the back, which really sucked. When you're back there for long periods of time, it's really boring. You have no connection with anybody. You don't get to talk to anybody back there, and you're just it's basically think of solitary confinement. That's what it was working in the back drive-through. I had worked Christmas. The first year that I worked there, I worked Christmas, and she was in charge of, or it was Christmas Eve or Christmas, one of those days, and she was in charge of the shift. And I was working up like up front, the drive-through, and I just remember like I was talking to my friend at work because it was like really dead, and she yelled at me like, oh, like you need to stop talking and just do your side work and this and that. And I was like, okay, like, you know, I get it, if nobody's like able to talk, like fine, you want me to do my work, cool. But then after like the moment that she told me to stop talking is when she like went into like the kitchen, and she had everybody around her, and she was just telling like her stories and everything. Nobody was working except for me. Like, that just goes to show you like the way that she was towards me. Like, and we were so slow. Like, there was literally like, I was doing all my side work, there was no customers, and she just didn't want me to talk, and everybody else could talk except for me. It was like, that's how much she didn't like me. And I had this coworker, I used to work with her a lot, and she told me like, oh yeah, the only time I ever get in trouble for talking is when you're around and I'm talking to you. Like, other than that, she literally never cares when I talk. So like, imagine being at work, like not being able to talk to anybody. You have to literally just stay quiet the whole shift while everyone around you is talking and having fun and being cool. Like, she was so like horrible to me, and she like wanted to make me like miserable, and she was so fake. Like, she would pretend like she liked me, like to the managers, like the GM and stuff like that. And people told me that she was actually like talking about me behind my back, saying like all this stuff about me. And I was just like, what the hell, like what is this? Like, you're supposed to be like 7 years older than me, and you're talking crap to me, like, or about me. And it's just like, and she's on top of that, she's a manager, not just a regular manager, she was a department manager, which is above a manager. So yeah, and then like we were supposed to get what is it called, those like 6-month review or whatever, and like she wouldn't even talk to me about mine, but she would just like, and on your review, if you have a good review, you get a raise. And like, I never got a raise because she was in charge of my reviews. Not only that, but she had someone basically harass me. She had another manager, like, I guess she dared him to come flirt with me or whatever. And I guess like, I never really told anybody at work about my personal life, because people at work are not your friends unless you're like actually like hanging out with them. Like, don't tell people at work your personal business, you know? So nobody at work knew that I had a boyfriend. So like, they will always try to like make me feel bad and say like, oh, like, why don't you have a boyfriend? Like, oh, like Desiree doesn't have a boyfriend, and like this and that. Like, they would like talk down to me because I didn't have a boyfriend, but in reality I did, and I was just like, whatever. I think I told like somebody one time like, I do have a boyfriend, like, and why does it even matter, you know? Anyways, she had another manager, like she dared him to go flirt with me or whatever, and he came to the back and he was all like, oh hey, like you look so good today, and like this and that. And I was just like, I like literally didn't say anything. I was just like, because I don't care, like, you know, and like, I don't care if somebody's trying to hit on me because I work with them, number one. Number two, I had a boyfriend. And three, I just didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to be rude, and like, you know, I didn't want any problems. So yeah, and then after the manager, the department manager that dared him, came to the back, and he's like, oh, see, Vero, I told you that I would flirt with her, now you owe me $5. And she just looked at me like she didn't expect him to say that. She like came back there to hear, you know what I mean? And I just like looked at her, and she just like gave me like a, like, you know, oh my gosh, you know, and then she like walked away. And yeah, like, it was crazy, like she was able to get away with that. When I quit, they actually had my supervisor come in and talk to me, and I told him about that happening, and he said that like basically it was my fault. You know, he tried to turn it around on me, and he was defending her and this and that. And it's like, she could do no wrong. Like, she never got in trouble for anything, even when she was in the wrong. You know, it was just like so like toxic being there because I was subject to like all this cruel treatment, and nobody would do anything about it. Another thing that I guess I'll talk about is, this was already when I was a manager. Basically I was taking my break, and two other managers that were like basically managers for longer than me were working, and I was on my break, and somebody was like, oh, like there's a bucket of water, like dirty water overflowing. And like, keep in mind, it's like the mopping buckets, and it was like super heavy, right? And one of the managers like, oh, Desiree, go dump that out, like. And I was like, and keep in mind, he's a guy, and he's like, oh, Desiree, you need to go dump that out. And I said like, oh, I'm on my break, like I'm not gonna do it, you know, because why are you gonna try to make me work on my break? Number one. Number two, that bucket was heavy. It was heavy. Three, he's stronger than me, why couldn't he do it? And he was on the clock. I was like, and he got all mad, and he's like, no, you need to do it right now, and this and that. I was like, I'm not gonna do it. He's like, well, I'm gonna give you a write-up if you don't do it. And I'm like, okay, like, give me a write-up then, because like you can't give me a write-up because I'm on my break, you know. He's like, I'm gonna give you a write-up, this and that. Anyways, so he goes and he tells the manager that hates me, the girl, and like, oh, Desiree's not listening to me, she's being an insubordinate and this and that. And basically she had to come over and talk to me and give me a warning or something, and said that I need to listen to him. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, I need to listen to him at all times. So basically, like, they like abused their power there, and it was always, they were always abusing their power. It's like all the time, like they would just be like on their phones in the back while everybody else was working, and they were on the clock. Like literally, it was just people abusing power at all times, like the managers. Yeah, this kind of is like hard for me to talk about because it really brings up a lot of like anger and frustration that I felt, because they treated me really bad there, like really bad, and it kind of makes me want to cry a little bit because I like went through so much. Because I don't know why I stuck it out for so long. I thought when I became a manager that I would be able to change the environment that was there, but I couldn't change it. And yeah, I couldn't change what it was like working there when there was like so many negative forces in that place, you know, like that had more power than me, regardless if I was a manager. Another thing that I want to talk about is that I basically was doing a position and I wasn't getting paid for it. I was a manager only, but they were making me do like the position of a restaurant department manager, which is above a regular manager. You get paid more than you do as a manager. And basically they had me doing all that work. I had to be like making the schedule, managing labor, like all this stuff, right? And I wasn't getting paid for it. Not only that, but they had me basically working off the clock. So they would have me making the schedule at home. The schedule took a lot of time, and they told me that they would pay me for it. Like they would just punch it into the system, and they never did. So I never got paid for that. Working there was really bad. Like people were really mean to me all the time for no freaking reason. Like all the time. Like I'm not even kidding. Like they made me miserable. Like when I was a manager also, obviously I was really young, and I was like 17, 18, and people were mad because I was a manager and they weren't. But that's because, you know, they just didn't have it in them to be a manager. They weren't reliable, they weren't really good at their job, they didn't care. Like I took my job serious. Like a job is a job, and I took it serious. Like I don't know, I wanted to make something out of being in that job. If I have to work a job, like I want to be the most successful that I can at it. That's just who I am. And they were like, give me a hard time, like, oh, you're younger than me, I'm not gonna listen to you, I don't need to listen to you, like all this crap. And it was bad. Like I couldn't even do my job because people were like being like, they didn't want to listen to me, and they were just being rude all the time, and like the manager, like the GM, like didn't care. Like I expressed my concerns to her, and she just said like, oh, you need to earn your respect, like you don't just get respect. And I'm like, why do I need to earn it if this is my position? Like I've been working here already for a year, and people don't want to respect me as a manager, but you're just letting them get away with it. You know what I mean? Like they didn't have to respect me because my manager didn't say like, hey, you need to listen to her, she's in charge. It's just like really, really bad, and I hated every moment of it. I literally used to go home like bawling my eyes out. Like I would like literally come home and cry because I felt so bad. And then finally, like, I just had enough. I found a different job, a job where I don't have to be in that position, and I don't have to put up with people treating me like I'm not a person, and just because they don't like me, or like there's not a lot to not like about me that I would like personally. I would say that, especially like when I'm working a job, like people just hated on me just to hate on me. And like my previous GM, before she left, she would tell me like she sees the way that people are out to get me all the time at work. Like they were just out to get me for no reason. She was like, they just don't like that you have potential and that you're a great person. Like there's nothing bad about you, she said. Like, and she knew that people were just trying to get me in trouble all the time, even when I wasn't doing anything wrong. And she said like, you know, I will never listen to them because I support you and I can see it, you know. She was so real. When I first got hired, she's the one who said like, I can see you as a manager, like don't worry about your age, like, and your experience, because I know like you can be a manager. And she like believed in me or whatever, and she like really saw me for who I was, and she saw everybody else for who they were. So, and then when she left is when everything just got worse, and people just started treating me poorly, and I was always in trouble because of what other managers would say about me, even though it wasn't true. And yeah, that was pretty much it. They just expected a lot from me. It was never enough, and regardless if it was enough, they didn't care. They were still wanted to treat me bad, you know? Anyway, so that's that. Thank you so much for watching this terrible, terrible story time about working at McDonald's for 2 years. Don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, comment down below if you can relate, or any stories you have about working at McDonald's, anything about any job that, you know, you had a bad time. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.